to talk today about creativity. It reminds me that our center used to be called, before we were branded into Center for Spiritual Living Asheville, we were called Center for Creative Living. Because out of all the names I could come up with back 17 and a half years ago when we decided to start this center, it was this idea that we are living creatively, that we are creating our lives each and every moment. And I love what you said, Zeb, that coming to this center gives us the tools and the techniques to get it, that our thought is creative, that there is a spiritual law that we are surrounded by. And when we think a thought, when we speak a word, when we take an action, we impress that into this creative medium and stuff happens. So that when we experience life, it's not separate from us, it's not different than who we are. It is a reflection of who we are. It's a reflection of our thoughts, it's a reflection of our beliefs, it's a reflection of our attitudes, it's a reflection of our level of courage. It takes courage to let go up here. Yeah. It takes courage in life to go for what you want and to let go into that idea that there is something greater to be had. Ernest Holmes says, we are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. What then shall we create? We are chemists in the laboratory of the infinite. The infinite has no limits. It's infinite. What shall we create? Do we want to create a happy life? Great. We have everything that we need. Do we want to create a life filled with misery and suffering? Great. We have everything that we need. But the chemist can't get mad at the experiment when the chemist is the one that gathered all of the ingredients and put it all together. If the experiment doesn't come out the way the chemist thought it would come out, do you think the chemist gets angry and stomps home? No. The chemist, being the chemist in the laboratory of the infinite, says, I have an infinite number of opportunities to try this again. I have an infinite number of ingredients to try. That one didn't work, but that doesn't mean that something else won't. All I need to do is to do it again. And all I need to do is to do it again. And all I need to do is to do it again. We call that time in the time-space continuum. It's every second, every second, every second, every second. We are creating our life. And I'm not talking about creativity in terms of arts and crafts. Arts and crafts are great. But I'm not talking about that kind of creativity. I'm talking about the innate, inherent creativity that is within each of us. We are made of something great and glorious. I don't know what it is, and if anybody ever tells you that they do, they're lying. We can get a little bit of it, but we don't know what it is. For that matter, this whole time-space continuum, this universal layer, can only be a part of the divine. It's got to go on eternally outside of a reality that we can even think about, into realities that we can't even comprehend. I mean, what is it if you're not in form? Well, you're in spiritual form. Well, that's a vibration, and that's really kind of a form. What is it if there's nothing there but consciousness and awareness and love and joy? We don't know. So whatever it is, whatever God is, we have a bit of it. But one thing that we can do is look around us and see that if God is all that there is, then whatever God is must be manifested in what it has created out of itself. And so whatever God is, God has to be creative because there's creation. If God is all that there is, and there's creation, then somehow God had to create creation. Time and space, form, bodies, you and me, manifested, individualized into form, sparks out of the fire, light beams coming off the sun, notes of the song, however you want to describe it, somehow there's a creative principle and a creative process because we have creation. And if we are a point of awareness in the divine, like the wave is to the ocean, just as wet, same chemical composition, same movement and flow, then we have to have within us whatever God has within it. That means we must be creative. And that's the creativity that I want to talk about today, that we have to have within us those same qualities and attributes of the divine, and I'll give it to you that we have not yet opened to the full potential of our beingness to where we can command the same quantity of creation that the divine has. Because people will come up to me and say, okay, Barbara, if you're so powerful and creative, stop the sun from rising. Well, I tell you, I can stop the sun from rising in my life. I can do that. And I do know that at some level, what I am and what God is the exact same thing. And from my conscious awareness, I haven't wrapped my head around all of that yet. But I know that that flow of power and that flow of creativity moves through me. And I am at my best when I'm riding that flow instead of fighting against it. I am at my best when I'm open to that movement of spirit in me into manifesting form in my life. Instead of saying, stop the bus, I want to get off. Stop the world, I want to get off. No, I want to ride that wave. I want to do it clearly. I want to do it powerfully. I want to do it with awareness. Because whatever God is, we are. So we have to be powerful beings. There is some awesome power going on here in the physical realm, which is just a small point of whatever God is. There's some awesome power going on here. We are creative beings. We are spiritual beings because we're made out of spirit itself. We are powerful, creative, spiritual beings. And what I like to add to that is alive and well on planet Earth. There is nothing wrong with us. We are not missing anything. We are not lacking anything. No one is dangling something in front of us only to snatch it away as we get to it. That's not the way life works. We are creating our reality, and we're doing it with our thoughts. We're doing it with our feelings. We're doing it with our words. We're doing it with our beliefs about what life is about. In the beginning, when I welcomed people here for the first time, I said, we don't believe in sin, we don't believe in hell, and we don't believe in the devil. Wow. What we believe in is that there's a power that moves through us, lifting us as that movement comes through, and that whatever we focus on, we can create. We can create anything in our lives. We can create not having to have surgeries. We can create our lives unfolding even when other people may say, you've fallen flat on your face, and you're going, oh no, I'm not. I'm getting back up again, and I'm getting really good at it. Getting really strong and getting back up again. This is a tool that will help you throughout your life. Get up. Get up. Don't just sit there. Don't wallow. Don't bemoan your fate. Get up. Because when you get up, you set this experience in motion, this law in motion that then manifests in alignment with you getting up. We are powerful, creative, spiritual beings alive and well on planet Earth. We are a point of the divine. We are living in the heart of God. God, I love that. I love that. We are living in the heart of God. We have all of, whether you want to call it the universe or life or God itself, we have all of that moving for us. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to use that idea of creativity? What are we going to do when things go bump in the night? When life goes boom? What are we going to do? Are we going to be locked into some idea that says this is just the way it is? You deserve to be punished for what you thought about when you were 3 years old. You deserve not to have the life that you were meant to live. No! We're going to get up. We're going to rise in consciousness. We're going to get a greater view. We're going to focus our lives on what we want. Now I know some of my students are out there saying, well, in the textbook, Ernest said, man does not create, he discovers and uses. And that's true, but I want to look at that idea a little bit of where Ernest 100 years ago might have been coming from. He was right up there with quantum physics today, saying everything exists in pure potentiality. And as soon as we focus our awareness on it, it shows up in physical form. So he's saying, we don't create, it already exists. Everything already exists. Whether or not you can see it is really a moot point. It already exists. And as soon as you focus your awareness on it, it shows up in time and space. And I think what he was saying to us was, don't get too caught up personally in creating your life. You know, it's like being at the beach and body surfing, which I love to do. Body surfing, and instead of letting the wave pick me up and carry me, I think I've got to swim the whole way. And I miss the experience of being lifted up by that wave, because for me, the rush in body surfing is when I'm completely out of control. I'm trying not to flip upside down and get water and sand up my nose, and I'm flying through the water. That's the experience of body surfing to me. And if I don't allow the wave to lift me, and I think that I have to do it all by myself because I have control issues even when I'm body surfing, and I think that if I swim and kick harder, then I'll be able to stay in the wave. All I've done is struggle my way through a wonderful experience that could have been uplifted. So I think what Ernest is saying to us is, don't take it so personally. Don't use this idea that you're creating your reality now as a way to burden yourself. Don't hold yourself down and be afraid. Oh, now, Barbara, I have to be afraid of my thoughts. No, you don't. If you create something through your thoughts, you can uncreate it just as fast or faster, because now you're aware, just as fast or faster as you created it the first time. So you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to guard your thoughts, but a little mindfulness would really help. Pay attention. Think about what you're thinking about. If it gives you a headache, take an aspirin. Listen to what you say. If you don't listen to what you say, put some really good people around you that will say, did you just hear what came out of your mouth? Like Chloe Ann taught her kids. That's what happens when you bring family to the Center for Spiritual Living. They grow up and they say, do you really want to live that? Did I say that? So think about what you're thinking about. Listen to what you're saying. And don't take it as a burden. I was listening to a TED Talk. I'm addicted to TED Talks. From Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And she was talking about how this idea of creativity in terms of writing works in her world. And she said, this is what was important to me. She said, it was interesting, it was a big shift in the way that people looked at creativity about 500 years ago. And people went from saying that that person has the genius to that person is the genius. And she said, as a writer or as a creative person, it's very difficult to make that shift from I have the genius to now I am the genius. And you might say, well, Barbara, this teaching teaches personal empowerment, and I want to be the genius. And I'm saying there's a wave that will lift you if you let it. That there is something greater than you know yourself to be that will lift you up if you will but open to it. And so here we have all of these opportunities and options and ideas and the wisdom and the intelligence of the universe flying all around us. And we can catch that if we want. I heard a story about a woman who's a poet, and she would have to keep a pad of paper and a pencil handy, because when the poems came, and maybe this is true for you, Emily, I don't know, but when the poems came, she would have to quick go write them down. And she said if she didn't get to the paper fast enough, the poem went by her. In her mind, she thought to go find someone else. There was a time when she was out walking, and the poem started to come, and she ran to the house, grabbed her paper and pencil, and wrote the poem, but it had already gone past her, and she grabbed it and pulled it back. And her writing was the poem in complete reverse order. There's a wave that will lift you if you but open to it. What do you think happens when patents come around? There will be a patent come to the patent office, and there will be 5 patents show up at different places around the world at the same time. There's that idea of flying around. And so our job is to open to that. It's to open to that, and what happens is we get scared. And we shut down and we try to hold on, and I have never found that effective. Even though I have done it for years and years and years at times, to shut down and to hold on and try to keep things the way that I want them to be, instead of to open up and to say, what is going on here that I'm not seeing? That whole idea about being out of the box, does anybody know where that came from? Living out of the box. It's an exercise of 9 dots. And you're supposed to connect the dots with 3 lines. And the only way you can connect the dots, all the dots, with 3 lines is if you go out of the box. That's where out of the box came from. You have to stop thinking about what you see and start embracing ideas of what is beyond what you can see. So when you're living creatively, you're not looking at what is, you're looking at what could be, even if it's ridiculous. People come into my office and they say, oh, Barbara, there's nothing that I can do about it. Of course there's something you can do about it. I can start rattling off all kinds of things you could do about it. You could move. You could blow the thing up. You know, you could go buy that person out. There's all kinds of things you can do about it if you start thinking out of the box more than what you see. And that's the idea of creativity. Creativity, by its very nature, is to bring something new into form as your life. What is new in your life? What are you going to bring into form in your life that is new, that is different? You can't look at what is if you're going to get something new. You've got to look beyond it. And when you start looking beyond what you can see, something happens to you. Because you start looking beyond what you see in yourself. And you start realizing that there's something around you, there's something moving through you, there's something that guides you, there's a wisdom inside of you. There are all kinds of things happening. You are not just the way you look. You're not just your finances or your job or your relationship or your body. There's something so much more to you because you start to practice looking at what is yet to be. And so you look in the mirror and you go, I see the you that is yet to be. And you look at your life and you go, I see the life that is yet to be. I may not know how to bring it into form yet, but I can see that there is something more than what is here. And all of a sudden we open up to these ideas that go around to that something that is greater within us than we think that we are. It's not our conscious mind that is creating our life. We can use our conscious mind to guide and direct our thoughts, our words, and our actions. But there is so much more. There is that we are guiding and directing. There is so much more inside of us. And when we open up to that, we can live a life that is completely different. Jesus said, it's the Father within that doeth the work. And forgive me for the gender statement. It is the mother within. But you know, if you have mother or father issues, you're going to be in trouble in that one. It is the Spirit within that doeth the work. It is that greater awareness, that greater presence of the divine that does the work. There is something that I am that is more than I thought I was. And there is something going on in my life that is more than I thought it ever could be. And when you start seeing that, and you start opening to that, and you start getting it, everything starts to change. I have some ideas here. There are myths of creativity. When I say a creative person, people get a certain idea. Either they get someone who's painting or playing music, or they get someone who works at Google, you know, and just has these big epiphanies that the light bulb goes on in their head. And creativity is not like that. Most of the ideas that come through this creative medium are not light bulb ideas. They're ideas that percolate. They're ideas that take time. They're ideas that usually kind of catch someone by surprise, or they show up while someone's playing. I heard that the theory of relativity was given, or that Einstein had that theory while he was shaving. He wasn't thinking. He wasn't working at his desk. He was probably doodling in his head. And all of a sudden, this idea came. So here are some myths of creativity. The first is that creativity comes from creative types. There is no creative type. There's the creativity of the divine made manifest as each one of us. We are all creative types, every one of us. The second is that money is a creativity motivator. You know, as soon as you put money on the table, creativity goes out the window because people start thinking about the money. They start getting all worried about the money, and they start thinking about what they can do for the money, and all of a sudden it's all about the money. The third one is that time pressure fuels creativity. If you give people a deadline, creativity is gone. It's just gone. They're all about the deadline. There's anxiety, there's fear. And remember, when there's anxiety and fear, then you go into your fight or flight response, and all the blood goes out of your brain into your limbs so that you can either run or knock down the saber-toothed tiger. You go brain dead. You get stupid. The fourth one is that fear forces breakthroughs. And what they found is that creativity is positively associated with joy and love, and negatively associated with anger. If you're angry, if you're afraid, if you're angry, if you're afraid, if you're anxious, you're not going to have a creative thought in your head. There's going to be these great ideas that just go by you, and they'll go to someone else who's open and receptive. People are happiest when they come up with a creative idea. Now listen to this. But they're more likely to have a breakthrough if they were happy the day before. Listen to this. This is statistically proven. One day's happiness often predicts the next day's creativity. You want to get creative? Get happy. And don't expect it to show up on the day that you're happy. That means if it doesn't show up tomorrow, you got to be happy tomorrow. And then it'll show up the next day. If it hasn't shown up yet, you got to be happy the next day. Because creativity is going to come. You're going to have a breakthrough. You're going to have an idea. You're going to get your purpose for living. You're going to be lifted up, and you're going to find yourself flying through the water on that wave. The last creativity myth is that competition beats collaboration. And what they found is that as soon as you compete, you withhold information. And creativity plummets. But if you put everybody together and say, let's get this idea, let's work on this idea, and people can share what's going on with them, even if what they have doesn't have anything to do with what the other person has, it sparks ideas, and collaboration boosts creativity. Creativity happens oftentimes when you least expect it. There's a story about some scientists who were at the School of Applied Physics at Johns Hopkins University back in 1957. And what happened back in 1957 is the Russians launched Sputnik, the very first rocket to go into space, and that was a geek's dream, you know. There's a rocket in outer space, and so they were in the cafeteria, and they were all talking about this rocket, and they said, hey, I wonder if we can hear it. I wonder if we can listen with some of our equipment here at this School of Applied Physics, and can we catch the rocket? And sure enough, they went and they did whatever it is they do, and they caught the little blip that meant the rocket was out there. And they said, this is historic. We shouldn't just be sitting around listening to it. We should record this. This is a historic event. Sputnik, there's a rocket in space. And so they recorded it. And what they noticed was that there were small anomalies in the sound. And they said, wow, that's about where the rocket is in relation to where we are. I bet we could use the Doppler effect, and we could figure out where that rocket is. Now they're not getting paid for this. They're not told to do this. This is an act of pure joy. They said, let's find Sputnik. Let's find out where the rocket is. And sure enough, they used those variations in the sound, and they used the Doppler technology, and they found the rocket Sputnik. And then their boss came in. It's been a couple of weeks now. They've been working on this, and said, hey, do you think that you used a position on the Earth to find a satellite up in the sky? Do you think that you could reverse that technology and use a satellite up in the sky to find a position on the Earth? And they said, sure. And we had global positioning satellites. Because some guys were having lunch, and Sputnik went up, and they got excited. And they said, let's go find this rocket. Let's use what we know. Let's collaborate. Let's have a good time. Let's be happy about it and find something new. So what I want to encourage you today to do is to use what you have, gather together, find something new. But you got to be happy about it. You can't be angry. You can't be anxious. You can't be afraid. If you need to have a bigger idea, if you need to see something that up until now you can't see, the first thing to do is to relax. Go on a vacation. Take a break. Go watch a movie. Go look at something on television. Go for a walk. Change what's going on. Use what you know. Daydream. Talk to your friends about it. See what it is they know. Have a good time. And before you know it, you will have found not only an answer to your question or a solution to your problem, but you will have found a brand new life. And so it is.